if there was one thing that I learned as my time as a manager in the motor industry, is that you build a sales team to get them to play to their strengths. Now, you get some salespeople who are all about the numbers. They're all about sell, sell, sell. Let's get the numbers on the board. Whereas others take a more considered approach. They take their time, they build trust, they forge relationships with customers, they play the long game. Now, if we were to relay that type of scenario to car manufacturers, then I would say that Audi are very much the former. Lots of cars, lots of choice, let's get them out the door, let's get bums in seats, as it were. Whereas Genesis are very much in the latter camp. They want to forge relationships with their customers. They want to build some trust there. They take their time. It's a more laid back, considered, softly, what's the hurry type of approach. And if there was a car within the Genesis range that said that more than any of the others, then it would be this, the Electrified G80. And now, well, now they've made it even more laid back and relaxed. Welcome to this week's road test review. Welcome to the newly updated Genesis Electrified G80, and as always, welcome to AutoEV. Now, as always, before we start the full review of the new Genesis Electrified G80, it is of course the time where I ask a small favour of you. Just if you don't mind, just check to make sure you're subscribed to the AutoEV channel. It'll only take you a second. And then when you've done that, press the bell button that's down below, because that means you'll be notified when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. Once you've watched this week's review, if you enjoy it, and obviously I hope you do, make sure you give a little thumbs up for me. And don't forget, leave us your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let us know what you think about cars we feature on the channel, such as the Genesis Electrified G80, and of course on the AutoEV channel overall. So I don't really need to go into the history of Genesis as a brand in some respects, because they've been around a little while now. They became a standalone brand back in 2015, believe it or not, because obviously they're part of the Hyundai group, the sort of luxury arm of it. But they came to the UK in 2020 and they launched quite a few models over the years. Not a great time to launch new cars back in 2020, because there was a thing called a global pandemic at the time, but there you go. But they did want to take things slightly differently, you know, especially as a luxury car manufacturer. A big focus on customer service and sort of like the way that people bought cars and interacted with them as a company. And as I say, we had a fair choice of models. We had the G70 in both saloon and shooting brake, the small compact saloon. We had this car, the G80, the large executive luxury saloon car, the GV80, a big SUV, and of course the GV70 as well. And the GV70 and G80 were also electrified, and there was their bespoke electric car as well, the GV60, the small compact crossover SUV, if you like, built on the Hyundai Group's eGMP platform. But then they had a bit of a change of heart, and they said, oh, hang on a second, we want to just be an electric only brand. So the G70 saloon, shooting brake, and the big GV80 SUV, they were all binned. They're gone now. And so were the combustion engine versions of the G80 and the GV70. So it just left 3 electric models. Interestingly enough, however, they are going maybe back towards the combustion engine. They do see a future for it through hybrids. So future models that they'll introduce will not just be electric only. There may be some hybrids that come back into the UK market as the brand progresses. They've also changed their sales sort of strategy. They were very much going for that online type of thing. But as I said before, in some respects, especially in the UK, with luxury items, we are still a breed of people that still want to go and sort of like see and touch and feel, and if we're going to spend this level of money, it's all very well buying something like a new phone case or a jacket or a jumper online, but you know, an £80,000 car, some people want to go to the showroom and feel a little bit loved, and that's something that Genesis are embracing. But what we've got now with the 3 models that remain in the UK, the GV60, the GV70 and this G80, are updates, and this is the second of them. We've already seen the GV70 electric, their updated version of their medium-sized SUV, and now we've got the updated version of the G80 electrified, and they've concentrated on luxury and refinement. If it could get any more luxurious and refined than what it was before. But they have managed it, and that is a strength of Genesis, and as I say, they've really played to that strength with this newly updated car. as we'll now see. However, as always, let's take a look at the main points of the car before we delve a little bit deeper. So for 2025, the Genesis G80 is now offered exclusively with an electric drivetrain featuring two motors that combined produce 370 PS for a 0 to 60 mile an hour time of just 5.1 seconds. The car is now only available in extended wheelbase form, adding even more space to the rear cabin. Revised styling and enhanced specifications mark out the new car, which is now only available in one trim level. A larger 94.5 kilowatt hour battery can now see the car travel at up to 354 miles between charging, according to WLTP figures. And prices start at just over £75,500 before options. So more range, more space, more luxury, more technology. Does that make it the more obvious choice when it comes to this market sector? Well, the only way we can find that out is by putting it through the road test, the actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle. Well, the obvious choice is obviously the AutoEV one, isn't it? Okay, so as always we start with how the car looks, which on the face of it is very similar to the previous G80, the work of Luc Donkervoort, Genesis styling chief. And of course there's the usual Genesis sort of like design signatures that you can see in the car, the two-line lighting configuration, which is actually, there's more of that round the car than you maybe thought of in the first place. I'll point them out to you as we go around. There's the new Genesis badge, which came out on some of the other models before, that's now on the front of the G80, and of course you've got your usual big crested grille on the front, which has the very neatly integrated sensor for the forward guided cruise control and camera, and also the world's most camouflage charging flap, which as you can see is now electrically operated and heated. That's quite clever. Not sure we needed the electric opening, but there you go, they do have it, so that's a nice thing. But would you even know it was there? So that's changed. The lights have changed themselves inside. They've got new technology with the lights, so they're much better before, and they've almost got like a kind of jewel-like a presence to them, if you like, when you see them on. It's quite nice. And this area down here, this has all been redesigned here. So this sort of like this corner section here of the front air dam, that's different. And of course you've got the air curtains which just take the airflow in there and go around the new wheels as well. And this lower section obviously down there is all for the cooling as well. Now, I ran a GV70 electric for 6 months as my long-term test car, which I absolutely loved. So does my partner Liz. She adores that car. In fact, we still talk about it. She still misses it. The only thing is, with the Genesis styling, I do like the fact that they're not that overtly sporting brand, despite the fact that they're going racing next year in the WEC, and there's some sporty cars within the range. They're more about the luxury side of things, which is what I like about them. However, now just hear me out in this. The only thing is, when I had my GV70, there was a friend of mine said, it's very, very nice, but there was a whiff of retired golf club captain about it. Now I do get what he means by that, but as I say, I just like the fact that Genesis are sort of treading their own path. They're not following the herd of going for that sort of overtly sporting and aggressive nature of, say, maybe suggest BMW and Audi. They're maybe a bit more sort of old school Mercedes in some respects, which I do like about it. But as I say, there's the changes around the front. You'll see a lot more as we go around the car, because as I say, they've made it a little bit longer. Now at first glance inside profile, you're going to notice things such as the new alloy wheels, these 19-inch hyper silver polished wheels that they call them. They are quite shiny. I wouldn't want to curb them too often, but you see there's your two-line signature there as well. You see, so you get two lines in the lights, that's another bit of it there. And then the side lamps or the turn indicators there as well. Now they've extended the car 130mm, which in fairness was needed, because one criticism we had of the old G80 was rear accommodation. So that extra length in the wheelbase has taken care of that. But that does mean an awful lot of new bodywork on the car. So whilst it looks the same when it comes to the style of it, you've got new roof panel, you've got new rear doors, you've got new rear wing area here, obviously you've got new rear glass. The boot lid remains the same, because obviously it's the same boot lid, but the rest of it does change to accommodate this extra length in the car. Now as I say, at first glance you might not actually see it. The only thing is, for me, there's just an awful lot of chrome in the car. You know, you've got it round the windows there, you've got it on top of the door handles, down the bottoms of the doors there, these little bits here. Now it's fine in this new Geneva silver paint finish where it's a bit more subdued, but in some of the darker colour cars, that bright work really stands out. And to me, chrome is very much sort of like, well, yesterday's sort of luxury, and it's not the most sustainable material to use, especially for a brand that trumps about sustainability and things such as Genesis. But they are trying to be very luxurious, so I do understand why they've used it as well. But I just wondered whether there might have been a better solution than chrome. There you go. As I say, there's still tech on the car. You get the cameras mounted in the door mirrors there. They give you a blind spot monitoring camera, which comes up on the dashboard there. As I say, we'll talk about sort of like more of the tech on it, obviously, but there's things such as the 360-degree parking camera. You can remote park the car off the key as well, or from the inside of the car. So there's some clever stuff there. And there's also some enhancements to things such as the lane keep assist and also lane change assist as well, which we can talk about when we're inside the car. But let's carry on with the styling and let's take a look around the back, because that's changed a little bit as well. You see, you also get your twin line design in this new rear window line here with the chrome trim round as well. Subtle but nicely executed, I think. Now, like the front of the car, the rear of the car is just subtly changed, so much so you'd be hard pushed to tell the difference between this and the previous generation car. But there is a redesign around this lower section of the rear bumper. Again, you've got your twin line light design there, and just the Genesis lettering across the back of the car with the G80 there. There's no real reference to the fact that it's electric at all, but there never really was, in fairness, in the previous car. You got a nice integrated camera just there, which is also part of the actual boot lid release. The button there, that opens up the boot as well, and it's in this sort of like shield shape of the front grille, which is quite nice. But again, a little bit more chrome there, and chrome there, and chrome there. Obviously you've got parking sensors around the car as you'd expect, and then there's some lights lower down in the bottom bits there. So what do we think? Well, look, I like it. I have to admit, I really do like the style of the car. I think it looks a lovely car. And actually, I think they've integrated that extra length into proportions quite well. You know, so it does work for me. And I like the fact, as I say, it's not that overtly sporting, sort of like, you know, aggressive sort of nature that you get with the likes of BMW and Audi these days. And it's, as I say, there's a whiff of old school Merc about it, and dare I suggest, Jaguar as well. And that's what I quite like about it. Maybe it's my age in that sense. I like the fact, as I say, it's not that overtly sort of like sporting, sort of like, you know, sort of like style that some of the manufacturers do. But as I say, the chrome trim just jars a little bit with me personally. But it doesn't really matter what I think, does it? It matters more what you think, because you're out there buying these cars. What do you think? Would this tempt you away from signing the dotted line for a new BMW i5 or an Audi A6 e-tron or a Mercedes-Benz EQE? Would you rather have something like a Genesis? Did you? Have you got the old car, the G80? Are you pleased they've kept the style of it? Or would you like to have seen them try something a little bit different? Let me know your thoughts down below. Now, one area that dare I suggest they maybe should have put some extra space into is the boot. Because it's just 330 litres, which is very small for class. It's 100 litres less than you get in the likes of the Mercedes-Benz EQE and way down on the BMW 5 Series as well. And it's also, because it's a booted saloon, you've got quite a narrow opening there to load luggage. Now, I don't have my luggage with me today because I'm actually, believe it or not, on the UK press launch from Genesis head office. But I've brought it back to my usual filming location, but I didn't turn up with suitcases because I thought, well, that would be weird. But I've got obviously my camera bag. The charging cables live in there as well, you see, so there's a charging box there, and you've got this raised area here at the back before the bulkhead, so there is quite a sort of like a step up there. And also we're going to talk about batteries, because obviously the battery capacity has changed as well, but that's underneath the car. So that's to house the rear motor, because it's all-wheel drive, it's dual motors. So yeah, I have to say, in terms of space, it is quite small when it comes to the actual luggage capacity. And my reference earlier to golf club, I do wonder whether or not how big and how many clubs you would actually get in. And I'm not a golfing man, so I don't really know. But as I say, I have to wonder how much you'd actually get in there. There's no real underfloor storage as such. There's a tiny little bit, but that keeps things such as the vehicle to load adapter in it, which is an option, by the way. I'll talk about that later in the pricing section. So yeah, so it might have been nice to maybe sort of, if they'd freed up a little bit extra space by maybe carving in that. But that's the one downside I have to say with the car, is it's quite a small boot, especially for such a large car. Now, one area where there's a big improvement over the old car is back here, and it needed it, in fairness, because the old car I always felt was quite tight in the back, even for such a short person like me. But of course now with this extended length, what you've got is 995 millimeters of legroom and 990 millimeters of headroom, and that's an additional 83 millimeters and 20 millimeters respectively. But not just that, if you go for the second row comfort pack, you also get self-closing rear doors. Just push a button, door closes. Isn't that quite cool? Plus you've got electric blinds in the back windows and the rear window as well as part of that pack, as well as this sort of like integrated sort of like control panel here in the armrest. Now don't panic, it is still a 5-seater car, so you do fold that away, and there is room for a third person there with a belt. But I have to say, I don't think I'd want to sit there, in fairness, because you've actually got, although it's padded, it's quite a little valley there between sort of like both rear cushions, if you like, and then you've also got this quite protruding rear armrest, so you'd be sitting like this. So you can do it. It is a 5-seat car, there are 3 belts across the back, but I don't know how comfortable it would be for people. But there we go. But as I say, with that second row comfort pack, you get this integrated control panel where you can also control media as well. So things such as your radio and media, and you've got the controller here, the sort of like the iDrive style controller that Genesis offer. Plus as well, you've got heated outer rear seats as well. And you've also got storage in there too. Okay. The door bins, yep, you've certainly got door bins in there as well, so they're not particularly large, but they're probably enough for just dropping, you know, I know, a packet of Starburst into for the kids or things like that. And as I say, you've got just a soft touch to sort of like open the rear door itself, so that's quite good as well. So you've got, and they're also as well as the self-close, they're also soft close. So if you pull them shut, as I say, they don't need to be slammed, the motor will just pull them closed. You've also got things such as the airline style pockets on the backs of the front seats. I think I mentioned the little vanity mirrors that you get before as well. There's some nice lighting and ambient lighting around the car as well, and it certainly feels very luxurious back here. You've also got rear climate control system there with vents, which obviously you can adjust to move around where you want, and coat hooks in the back there as well. But there's no rear entertainment in the car anymore. There used to be screens here, but they've done away with that now. You can still, like you can with a lot of the Hyundai Group cars, you can move sort of like the front passenger seat. So again, if you're sitting on sort of behind the passenger seat there and you want extra leg room, if nobody's there, you can move the seat forward as well. So big improvement to rear accommodations. Although the boot is small and they've done away with a couple of little things, I have to say the improvements back here are very noticeable and they're very welcome. Now, the cabin of the old car, I remember sitting in for the first time and saying that I thought it would appeal to sort of, dare I suggest, maybe an older generation of driver, because the technology wasn't particularly overwhelming. You know, you had your separate driver's binnacle and then a screen, and it wasn't all complicated. It wasn't all screens, you know, like you jump into the Mercedes-Benz EQE and it's all screens, same with the BMW, and especially the new Audi A6 e-tron. And I thought, that's great, you know, that's brilliant, that's what people are going to like. And now they've changed it to be all screens. However, what I will say is this: boy, is this a good interior. I really, really like this interior. So it has changed to be one screen, and it is one screen. It looks like it's the 2 screens that you get from the Hyundai Group. It's not. It's a 21-inch OLED display, and it actually sits quite well in this dashboard, the redesigned dashboard, the screen. It doesn't come up too far, and you still have a lot of physical controls in the car as well. So again, the tech isn't overwhelming. It's there, but it all seems to be sort of in the background, which I really do like. And you don't need to do too much, you know, in terms of going into here to control certain things, depending obviously on what you want as a driver. The other changes, which I'm very grateful for, is the new 3-spoke steering wheel. The old style, it just looked like it came out of a 1990s Lincoln Town car. I really didn't like it at all. This is much nicer. It's got a bit thicker, that's the only thing, but it's okay. It's still not overtly thick like a BMW's wheel, but certainly the design of it, the physical look of it, much, much nicer. This is also a new colour for the interior, this Prussian blue, and the exterior colour, I should have mentioned, is also a new colour, Geneva Silver Metallic. There is 14 colours available on the car, one of which is standard, it's a solid white. Then you get 13 more metallics and 1 matte finish, I think they said there. Plus you've got the option of 4 interior colours. Now black is standard, or a sort of caramel colour, they call it ecru camel. and the standard leather, which is a smooth leather, and it is leather. But then if you jump up to the optional Napa leather, you then get a choice of the 4 colours. So you standard black, the camel, this Prussian blue, and then a really nice light ivory colour as well with a sort of grey upper. So, you know, if you move up, then again, it's a beautifully soft Napa leather. And again, the standard smooth leather is actual leather, not a synthetic leather. So that's nice. Right, let me jump back to this screen. I don't want to harp on too much about it, okay, but you know, because I know I waffle too much. But you've got a very similar sort of layout to we've seen before in Genesis, and dare I suggest Hyundai and Kia products as well, because they're all part of the same group. So you've got a driver information binnacle in front of you. You've got your speedo here, which is very clear, and also what they've also done is the range figure as well, which sits within the speedo. They've made that quite prominent. So the font size has grown, so things look much clearer than they maybe did before. So there's no denying that is a nice improvement. There is a touch sensitive button here on the steering wheel, but I have to say, a little bit like Mercedes-Benz, it does work quite well. So it is just, you know, some of the touch sensitive stuff I don't really like. This is quite nice. So it's just a very gentle swipe, and you can scroll through things such as your trip computer and various other things that you want to have a look at on the dashboard. So it depends obviously what you want. So it's saying, like, you know, if you're moving, for instance, track search, for instance, you just swipe it and it just moves to the next track. You know, it doesn't go through 3 or 4 different tracks, you know, because you've done it too hard. It's nice and easy to use. The rest of the buttons remain actual physical buttons. They are actually got positive movement to them, if you like. And it's not over endowed with a lot of buttons, you know. So you've got a scroll wheel here for volume, you've got telephone, you've got a favourites button, you've got voice activation over here, and then you've got cruise control over and driver assistance and various different little bits here, again depending on what you want to see here. So you can change the middle of the screen here, so you can select, here's your ADAS system and that one there. Then of course you get things like trip computer there. Then you've got a camera view if you want to see what the camera is looking at. Is there another one? Oh, there's weather. You can change that, and then you can put the map in here as well. But it is one screen. It is one big screen, 21-inch OLED screen. It's very clear and very good to use. Obviously you get things such as wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You still get a touch screen, so you can lean forward and just use as a touch screen, and it's again quick to respond. It's now got such things, streaming services embedded into it as well, so Netflix, YouTube, Disney Plus, so you can log in from your home subscriptions into here, so it doesn't use data from your phone, for instance. So you can use them, you know, if you're sitting charging, for instance, you want to sit and watch, I don't know, the series that you've been watching on Disney Plus, you can do that. And then obviously there's various different things you can go in here to program as well. So connecting your phone, you know, you go into the seats, you can control sort of like, you know, some areas of the seat here, so the smart support. If you go for the Napa leather, you also get this thing called Ergo Motion seats, a front seat comfort pack, I think they call it, and that gives you massaging seats, and I think it's 12-way or 21-way adjustment on it as well, so that's quite good. So you can go in there to tick that box, but you don't need to continuously go into it to change things, okay? You do have also the ability to use this rotary dial here, which has been, you know, on Genesis for as long as I'm, and I loved that about my GV70. So you could just scroll through it to find the stuff that you want when you're on the move. So you don't need to touch the screen. You can just, as you're driving along, just turn it there. You know, you just go into things here, such as, it brings this up. If you want to go in there to, you know, look at your EV stats, your charging limit, set your charging times and things like that, you can do that there. And then there's a back button there. You want to go down to change things about the lights, so, you know, sort of like the ambient lighting or the intelligent high beams, things like that. You can go in there to do that. You want to control things like the driver assistance modes as well, so the smart cruise control, the lane change assist, that type of thing. Now the speed limit warning and the lane change as well, you don't have to go into the screen to turn those off. You can do that from the steering wheel. So like all the new Genesis or the Genesis, Hyundai and Kia cars, if you do a long press, I think it's 3 seconds on the volume control, that turns off your speed limit warning. And then your lane change assist button is this little one with the steering wheels on there, so you press and hold that and it turns it off. But they're also in there as well if you want to go in there to have a look at them. You also get a Bang & Olufsen sound system as standard, and it is absolutely fantastic. I've been listening to it this morning. Superb sound system from the car, and obviously that's got various different things with it. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the interior when we drive it, because there's a couple of really important things about what they've done with the interior that relates to how it drives. So I'll leave you guessing for that just for a little bit. But that screen is nice and easy to use, and I say because you've got your controller here as well, plus the physical buttons, you don't need to use it as a touch screen. Okay. I mentioned about Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so that's obviously in there as well. There's also a wireless charging pad here in front of the glove box lid. Talking of technology in your mobile phone, you can also set up a digital key. They call it digital key 2, but they've never had a digital key 1. I think it's to do with the technology. So again, you can program it into the wallet on your smartphone. So there's a digital key in there. And as you approach the car talks to the phone and it recognizes the phone. And then when you press the actual unlock button on the handle, the car will unlock and you can start it and drive it. So you can use a key, you can use a phone rather than a key. So obviously you can do that. You've also got the ability as well with this thing called UVC, so you can sanitize things as well. So for instance, your phone, you can pop it into there, press the UVC on, and that sanitizes it for you. Keeps harmful bacteria away from things. That's quite clever. This is the bit here that I want to discuss, because this also looks slightly different as well. So you've got physical controls along here. They're touch screen in terms of, with a haptic feedback to go into things such as radio, media, map. Oh, turn that down. But you get the physical controls for obviously volume and tuning as well. Okay, so that's nice. So again, something you need to use quickly on the move. You've obviously got control of volume and track search on the steering wheel, but if you prefer, or your passenger needs to use it, there's a volume and tuning knob there. Same with the climate control screen, which sits below this. There are elements of it that are touch screen. So for increasing your fan speed, for instance, that's touch screen. Or for your heated seat or your ventilated seat, that's on the touch screen. Or your airflow distribution, that's on the touch screen. But if you wanted just to adjust temperature, for instance, that's an actual physical control. So that's really nice. I like the fact that they've got just the right amount of controls, and I like the design of it as well. And that's what I say, it's not overwhelming. That's one thing I thought of the Audis, the new sort of like panoramic MMI that they do. It's quite overwhelming, that big screen. Same with the Mercedes. This is a bit more like BMW, with that sort of like strip of screen across the dashboard and then some controls down about here. So I do like this, it works well. And as I say, I like the amount of physical controls there are in the car. This wood trim is what they call is a forged wood, but there's, again, I think there's 3 other sort of like versions that you can have, 3 other types of wood that you can have, depending obviously on the colour that you go for inside. There's some buttons along here, so for instance you can open the rear doors from here as well. So again, if you're being driven in the car and somebody wants to open the rear door for you, you can do. There's your drive mode button there. There's parking as well. It also comes with like a smart parking assistant, where the car will recognise a space, whether it's in a line and it's parallel to the car, or whether you're backing into it, and your car can do it itself, and you can move it still in and out of the space as well with the key as well. So that's quite a handy thing. If you've got quite a narrow bay, maybe at your underground car park or something, you can get out of the car and the car will drive into the bay itself. That's quite handy. And then of course there's your parking camera button there as well. You get 2 cup holders, as you can see, which again the old car had there. They're quite nice and they're handy to sort of just to put your water bottle and your coffee flask in. And you've got door bins as well, which are padded on the bottom as well with the leather as well. So that's quite nice, and they feel quite thick as well, so there's good quality to them. Talking of the quality, it's absolutely superb, and as I say, having lived with the Genesis for 6 months and 3,500 miles, I can attest to the fact that they are extremely well built. Everything feels solid, it feels like it's built to last. There's a real quality to the materials. I really like this forged wood actually, and then it's actually on the dashboard here as well, and there's an uplight of ambient lighting just as well there, so it just shines up from underneath it. So yeah, I think they've changed it for the better, and as I say, I don't think it's overwhelming. As I say, I liked the old car because it was quite a simple sort of like car to live with and use, but it maybe looked a little bit old-fashioned or traditional. Let's not call it old-fashioned, let's call it traditional in its design. Whereas now, It feels much more modern. It feels much more in line with the other cars in the Genesis range, but there's still a lot of physical controls, you know, so you're not having to completely rely on a screen to do simple things such as, you know, turn off safety systems, increase your temperature or decrease your temperature if you're too hot. You know, it's got a physical control for that. There's maybe a little bit too much silver finish on buttons and stuff for me personally, but I'm not going to criticise that because that's colour, and colours are very much a personal thing. But it's something I always did find, even with my Genesis. I just thought, I'm not so sure on the kind of silver buttons and stuff, and the silver metal and stuff. Oh, there's a fingerprint recognition thing as well, so you can set profiles up for each driver where it'll set everything, you know, how you like it with your fingerprint reader as well. The comfort's off the scale. I mean, I was driving the car this morning, background here, and I have to say, on the motorway, and that's what I'm going to talk about when we drive it, the way the seat adjusts, the way the seat holds you, you know, it's phenomenally comfortable, and it feels like it doesn't feel like an executive car, it feels like a luxury car. And that, as I was saying right at the start, that's a strength, I think, a core strength with Genesis. They really focus on luxury and refinement, and this car is, I think, is the pinnacle of that, and it is absolutely sublime to drive out on the road, which I'm going to stop talking now, and after I've told you about the battery and charging, we're going to do. Now, the big change in terms of the electrical architecture of the car is a bigger battery. So it goes from 87 kilowatt hours, which is its gross capacity, or was its gross capacity, to 94.5 kilowatt hours gross capacity, which means the range has gone up as well. So it's gone up from 324 miles of the old car to 354 miles in the new one. Charging speed, 185 kilowatts on DC, which I do find a little bit odd considering it's 800 volt architecture from the car, and the electrical architecture of some other Genesis and obviously Hyundai cars have got much faster charging speeds than this car. But it's still not disappointing because you still go from a 10 to 80% charge in just 25 minutes, so that's not too bad. Plus you get an onboard 11 kilowatt charger as standard, so if you've got that faster three-phase electricity at home or a workplace and an 11 kilowatt wall box, then you can charge the car from absolutely flat to absolutely full in 8.5 hours. If it's a more likely 7 kilowatt wall box that you've got like I have, then you're probably looking at around about just over 14 hours to go from flat to full, or overnight as you would see fit. You do get a heat pump as standard, as well as a battery heater, and also as well the car will condition the battery and depending what's needed if you program charging stops in your navigation, but you can also do that manually yourself as well from the user interface on the infotainment screen as well. It also comes with bi-directional charging, so in other words vehicle to load as standard, although you do have to pay an additional £300 for the adapter. That's a bit mean, Genesis. Right, now this has got two motors, one at the front axle, one at the back axle, so it's all-wheel drive. Sometimes. I'll explain in a second. Power is up, 370 PS, but the 0 to 60 time hasn't actually come down. It's increased from 4.9 to 5.1 seconds, but it is a bigger car, so there's more weight there, I suggest, in the car as well. So, and it's only 2/10, are you really going to notice it? No. 700 Newton meters of torque as well. So let me explain about that thing I just said about the motors. What this car can do is it can decouple the front motor when it's not needed to help with efficiency. So for instance, you're driving along at 70 miles an hour on a motorway, for instance, you don't need the extra power of the front motor, so it will actually decouple that, so it's not, you know, causing drag on the front wheels. So it can go from being an all-wheel drive car to being a rear-wheel drive car, which is better for the efficiency of it as well. But the one thing that I absolutely love about this car, and I do mean I love about this car, is the comfort and the refinement and the luxury of it. And that is the core things that Genesis have really concentrated on. It was good in the old car, it was really good, it's even better here. Now, let me explain why. The first thing about it, they've looked at sort of like, you know, noise levels in the car. How can we make the car quieter? Now, this is my usual test route. This is my usual road that I go down. And, you know, it's quite a bumpy road. You know, there are elements of this road that's not particularly pleasant. And I'm not saying that you can't feel them, but you certainly can't hear the bumps. And there's a way that they've done that is, first of all, not only have they added sort of like a lot extra sort of like sound deadening around the car, so your usual sort of like, you know, foam round about the seals and, you know, sort of where the bulkhead is, you know, in the wheel arch liners. They've also concentrated on around the doors. They've also concentrated around the wheels, but in the tyres, believe it or not, these are Michelin tyres that are on this car, and they have a sound deadening foam within them as well. That's the type of, sort of, you know, the extent they're going to make sure that this car remains as quiet as it can. It also has acoustic glass around it, and it also has active noise cancelling as well. There are 4 sensors and 6 microphones around the interior of this car, and any extraneous noise that comes in from the cabin, the car will then emit a countering noise to balance it out. In other words, to cancel it out, just like your noise cancelling headphones, exactly the same way. This is biblically quiet in here. If there was ever a car that suited being electrified, it's this car, because this is an absolute joy to drive. It's the most stress-free car I have driven in such a long time. It is beautiful in here. Now, the other thing that suspension does as well is it's got cameras up in the mirror, just behind the mirror here. Now, I've had a GV70 for 6 months, and it had the same system in it, and it works so well. So these cameras up here scan the road ahead, and they will see bumps, you know, speed bumps, potholes, changes of surface, that type of thing, and it will then recalibrate the dampers to cope with those changes in milliseconds. Now, don't get me wrong, as I say, you can still feel the bumps. I'm not saying it absolutely irons everything out smooth, but I tell you what, it is way above the level you'll get from, say, BMW, Mercedes or Audi. This car is so comfortable, and you can feel it as you go into sort of like more of a bigger undulation. There's a softer setup to the car where you can just feel it, and it's not like it's going to continue to do this and porpoise all along the road. You feel it once, and then it starts to go, hang on a second, by about the 3rd time it's doing it, it's cancelled out. It's absolutely resolutely flat. It is lovely. It's such a nice. There's a section of the M25 between my house near Egham and round towards Leatherhead that's just a concrete surface, and it's so loud, the surface. Any car you drive down there, it's so loud on the car, through the car, that it's just unbearable. Not in this. You barely notice the change in surface. It's absolutely as smooth as silk, this car. Now, the steering is probably the one trade-off that I would suggest you have to make with that. Now, whilst there is a nice weight to the wheel, it's not the most direct steering rack that I've ever driven. If you're after a sports saloon, if you're really after a driver's car, then dare I suggest the Genesis G80 isn't really your car. You're better off looking at the BMW i5. It's good, and as I say, there's a nice weight to it, and you can change the feel of the steering going into the different driving modes, which I'll explain about in a second. But as I say, I like the weight of it, but there's a vagueness to it. It's not the most communicative helmet I've had in a car, but I'll take that for the comfort. I really will. I'll take that for the sort of the relaxed nature of the car. Now, I mentioned the driving modes. They're down here. You've got your usual suspects: Eco, Comfort, Sport and Snow. Okay, so there's what? In Sport, you put your foot down and you do get that slug of torque, you really do, and the car just, you know, sits on down in the back and it just off it goes. I say it's fast, it's plenty fast enough for me, but here on this slightly bumpier, you can just feel that body roll just a little bit more through the bends. Just dial it back a little bit. Don't ask too much of it, and trust me, this car really excels in other areas, so I'd stay away from sport mode. However, the mode that it does have that I'm really impressed with is a thing called chauffeur mode. Okay, so if I press and hold the drive mode, it goes into chauffeur mode, and what this does is it concentrates more on the brake pedal. So if I'm coming up here, it allows a much longer travel on the brake pedal to allow you to stop much more smoothly. So it's not like a real sharp, just like grab of the brakes. It's a really nice, you know, push down and a smooth transition that you get. And I tell you what, it's so nice. That's one of the nicest features that I've seen on a car for a long time. It really makes it such a nice car to sort of use in terms of the brakes. The brake pedal's got a really nice feel to it. Sorry, I'm just going through my width restriction. It's not grabby, you know, it doesn't feel all of a sudden like it transitions from sort of like regen into sort of like friction brakes. It's just a really nice linear positive movement on the pedal, and it just brings the car up nice and slowly and evenly. It's such a small thing, it was almost a bit of an afterthought that they told us about, but I tell you what, it's one of the best things about the car. The pedal's just really nice. It's weird to describe it to you. Just you put your foot down, it's just got such a nice feel to it. The car also has an option, in fairness, which is fitted to this car, of rear wheel steering. Sorry, just nipping back to the steering thing of the car now. And obviously, like most rear wheel steering things, it will steer counter to the rear wheels will steer counter to the front wheels at low speed, and they will steer in the same direction at high speed. So at low speed it's for manoeuvrability, at high speed it's for stability, doing lane changes and things on the motorway. It is an option, but it's something obviously fitted to the car given the extra length of it, and dare I suggest, it does make the car feel quite manoeuvrable at low speed, and you just going through little bits of roundabouts at low speed, just back there and things, you can really feel the back of the car just come round with you. It's quite nice to have, so that is something I would certainly think about, you know, in the car. As I say, if you're after a driver's car, you're going to be looking elsewhere, but if what you want is a big, comfortable, luxurious and refined cruiser, don't look past this car. This is absolutely lovely, and as I say, maybe it's my age, I don't know, maybe I'm just getting a little bit older with stuff. I do still like driving sports cars and things, don't get me wrong, but as a big, comfortable saloon car, this is absolutely bliss. This is perfection. It's so quiet, so smooth, so comfortable. I am doing some miles an hour now, and I'm barely raising my voice. In fact, I'm not even raising my voice. I can talk in a whisper. I know I've got a microphone on, but I can talk in a very soft voice, and you can still hear me. That's how quiet this car is. That's how comfortable this car is. Genesis, you've done everything you needed to do to make the G80 take the G80 from being a really good car to being an excellent car. This is absolutely lovely. Now, the new car is more expensive than the old car, but it's better value for money. Let me explain why. The previous G80 started under £70,000. This one is now £75,915 on the road. However, it gets standard equipment that used to be optional equipment on the old car. And when you take that into account, there's only about a £1,300 difference between the two. And that's before we discuss the bigger battery, the extra legroom in the back of the car. So, better value for money, I think, okay? There are still some options you can fit to the car. Obviously, there are different paint finishes, there are different interior finishes, there are different wood veneer finishes, so you can really personalise it to your own thing. Plus, as well, there are some option packs. So you can add the comfort pack in the front, you can add the second row comfort pack, the Napa leather seat pack, which is a sort of Genesis staple if you like, as well as such things such as the rear wheel steering that we discussed, and obviously things such as the white brake calipers if you really want. But as I say, the car is quite well equipped as standard. The other great thing with Genesis, of course, is your after sales care. You know, the whole Genesis brand was forged on this 5-star service, if you like. So not only do you get a 5-year warranty with the car, 5 years servicing, which you can sell with the car as well. And obviously you've got things such as, you know, they'll come to you, pick the car up, and you get a Genesis loan car as well, and you still get assigned a personal assistant. So when you take all of that into account, as I say, as difficult it is to stand here and say that a £75,000 car is good value for money, compared with the competition, I think it is. And what is that competition? Well, it's an odd car, the G80, because especially now it's been slightly extended, because it sits in a weird space in size, somewhere between an i5 and an i7 if you're looking at BMW. But in terms of its price, it's very much geared towards the i5 driver, okay? So that's the style of car I think is going to be its natural competitor. So the BMW i5, the Mercedes-Benz EQE, the Audi A6 e-tron, they're the top three that you're going to think about, those sort of like large executive all-electric saloon cars. But there is another one coming, and of course in some respects it is the original disruptor to this market space, Lexus, because of course they've got the new ES electric saloon that's coming to market space this year. So that is also going to be a rival for the Genesis. So here's what we like, and also what we don't like, about the newly revised Genesis Electrified G80. Well, we like its styling. It's now even more comfortable. It has fantastic refinement, a brilliant warranty and after sales package. The interior space is much improved over the old car, and the technology is better while still not being too overwhelming. We don't like. Well, whilst we like it, is the styling just a little too chintzy for some with that extra bright work? It still retains a disappointingly small boot. Perhaps those looking for a sports saloon should look elsewhere. And whilst we think it offers good value for money, it's still certainly not what you would call a cheap car. Just continue to tread their own path, and I like that about the brand. And nowhere is that more evident than in this car, the newly revised electrified G80. And the reason for that is this car doesn't try to emulate its rivals by trying to be something that it can't be. This is not an overtly hard sporting saloon. It focuses on its key strengths, which is namely comfort, luxury and refinement, and then builds on those key strengths, because with this newly revised model, those that were evident before are even better in this latest revised model. They've improved a lot about this car. They've improved the rear interior space, which was desperately needed. There's better technology on the car, but dare I suggest it's not overwhelming technology. It's useful and easy to live with technology, things that people will actually find useful in their day-to-day driving with the car. The way the car drives is much better. Its revised electrical architecture with a bigger battery means longer range, better efficiency from the car as well, plus fast charging speeds. And then we get to the real thing with Genesis, their after sales package, their 5-star services they would call it, the warranty, the servicing package, and just the fact that you feel a little bit more special when you buy a car like this, as opposed to just a number when you buy one of the others. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that people will immediately flock to this car and forget about BMW, Audi and Mercedes-Benz. They won't. They'll continue to buy those cars because they're good cars. But there will be a band of people for those cars they just don't want. And for those people, there is this, because this is the car that focuses on the things that the others simply don't, or dare I suggest won't, concentrate on. And that is being a large, comfortable, refined luxury car. This isn't a team player. This one stands on its own, and dare I suggest, it's all the better for it. Thank you for watching another road test review on AutoEV. As always, please make sure you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel, and once you've done that, press the bell button that's down below, because that's the way you'll get notified when our next video is uploaded and it's gone live. If you have enjoyed this week's review, and I sincerely hope you have, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think of the Genesis Electrified G80? Would you have this over a BMW i5, a Mercedes-Benz EQE or Audi A6 e-tron? Have you? Is this what you currently drive? Have you got one of the older models? What made you buy it? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? What made you choose one of the others instead of the Genesis? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now remember, we're across on all social media platforms as well, so if you're a fan of Facebook, X, LinkedIn, TikTok or Instagram, we're there as well. So if you'd like to give us a follow there, we'd certainly appreciate it. And maybe you're in the marketplace for an electric car. It might not be a new Genesis G80. Maybe you're thinking about the older model as a used car, but you want to know more about it, and you want to know what our thoughts were on the car when we first drove it. How do you find out? Well, here's how. Stay on the AutoEV homepage on our YouTube channel, and just at the top there you'll see a little magnifying glass. If you type the name of the car that you're interested in buying in there, and if it's been a new electric car in the UK in the last 5 or 6 years, then of course we've subjected it to the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle, the AutoEV one. All that remains for me to say is thank you once again for watching. Thank you for your continued support. I'll see you again soon.